I, Manvi Saraswat, wishes you a warm welcome in 32 Graduate Scholar Talk Series hosted by History Department Sakshar and IQAC Internal Quality Assurance Cell. This weekly talk series, which happens on every Sunday, is started as a platform for young graduates to present their analytical and critical approaches on variety of topics. This series is coordinated by Mr. Saurabh, Mr. Ajay, and me. Saraswati, the goddess of knowledge, music, art, and nature, represents the free flow of wisdom and consciousness. So now let's start this session by Saraswati Vandana.
श्लोक अर्थ। जो विद्या की देवी भगवती सरस्वती कुंद के फूल, चंद्रमा, हिमराशि और मोती के हार की तरह धवल वर्ण की है और जो श्वेत वस्त्र धारण करती है, जिनके हाथ में वीणा दंड शोभ्यमान है, जिन्होंने श्वेत कमलों पर आसन ग्रहण किया है तथा ब्रह्मा, विष्णु एवं शंकर आदि देवताओं द्वारा जो सदा पूजित हैं, वही संपूर्ण जड़ता और अज्ञान को दूर कर देने वाली माँ सरस्वती हमारी रक्षा करें।
Now I welcome our respected guest of today, Dr. Rajiv Kamal Kumar, who is an assistant professor in sociology and social anthropology at A.N. Sinha Institute of Social Studies, Patna, Bihar. He has an academic background in anthropology with a focus on socio-cultural development and health aspects of tribal and other communities. He has participated and presented several papers in national seminars. He has also authored a book, presented book reviews, etc. in leading journals and seminar proceedings. Sir has worked closely with the State Health Society, Bihar, for almost 4 years as state coordinator. Sir, I request you to please grace us with your valuable words.
Thank you. I'm very much thankful to Saksh. Am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes, Dr. Raju. Yes, you're audible.
I'm very much thankful to Saksh History Society, Department of History, Shyamlal College, Evening, Delhi University, and all the coordinators and organizers of this graduate scholar talk series and the Journal of Continuity and Change. I'm especially thankful to Dr. Manish Kramwar, and he is convener of GSTS and GSCC, and other two conveners, Dr. D.N. Singh, Dr. Pramod Kumar, and the two co-conveners, Dr. Seema Meena and Dr. Ajay Kumar. Dr. Manish Kramwar had called me a few days back, and he invited me. He discussed with this idea, and he invited me. So I was very happy to hear this initiative, and I am really very appreciative of this kind of effort. There are two reasons for joining me. One, first is I wanted to hear this young researchers and want to see how they proceed to a seminar, conference, and this kind of activity, research initiative. And the second reason is personal. Dr. I know two of the organizers, two of the conveners. They are my seniors in the Mansarovar hostel, and Dr. Manish Kambar and Dr. DNC. Both were very loving and caring senior to us, and so I immediately say yes. And I'm really very appreciative of this kind of effort. You are doing a wonderful job, and I think without any cost. Just you have to coordinate, but of course it takes a lot of efforts on the part of the organizers and all the students who are involved in this activity. Today's topic is Homo sapiens during the birth of language, to be presented by Mr. Shahid Ahmed of SLCEDU. You must be aware that history and anthropology are closely related to some aspects, and I find the subject history is very fascinating. Anthropology and history has some connection, have some connections. Like in anthropology is a simple definition of anthropology is the evolution. You study about the human beings in time and space. You take any subject and you study about him in time and space. So anthropology is a study of human beings, and for physical anthropologists, they study the evolution of mankind, and they see the physical evolution, structural changes in the human beings, how the human have evolved over the period of time, and this social anthropologists and sociologists, cultural anthropologists, they see the evolution of mankind in social terms, how the human beings have evolved culturally, socially. So one of the branches of anthropology is prehistory, which we know as also as archaeology, and archaeology and history, particularly the ancient history, has close connections. The methods and approaches of the subjects are different. Like for archaeological study, we go to the places and we are involved in the excavation of the archaeological sites. We study the human beings through the material culture, like tools, Paleolithic tools, Mesolithic tools, pottery shards, and other material culture, and other equipments and material culture of the human beings. And through this material culture, we try to interpret the evolution, the sequence of evolution of human beings. So this is archaeology. And there is a basic difference between history and prehistory. History starts where we have come across the evidence of writing, and before history, before writing, that is prehistory. So there is a close similarity, and this history as well as anthropology are very fascinating subjects. So I wish the speaker Shahid Ahmed very best, and request him to start his presentation about the topic. And after the presentation, I will be speaking on the topic. I will give my comments. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Now, here comes the main part of the program, the talk of the series. So now, I would like to call Mr. Shahid to present his opinions on the topic Homo sapien during the birth of language.
Good evening, everybody. Honorable Chief Guest of the evening, Dr. Kamal sir, respected teachers, and all my dear friends. Today, I, Shahid, am come before you all to speak on the topic Homo sapiens during the birth of language. The objective of the talk is to understand how the origin of language recreated the world, how this led to the creation of rituals, which in turn created myths, thus money, empires, and religions came to unify the humankind. They further evolved to create a world of imagination, and the result was the birth of imagined communities. We must understand that our forefathers were violent and peaceful as well. So we have violent and peaceful genes. But how to create a blissful and peaceful world for the generations of tomorrow through the genetic traits we have? So these are the objectives that will be talked and focused upon today.
Sahid, open your camera.
Sir, my camera is, I think, because of some
Yes.
network issues.
Okay. Not an issue. Go ahead. Go ahead. No, Sahid, go ahead. It's your comfort. Go ahead.
Human first evolved in East Africa about 2.5 million years ago from an earlier version of apes called Australopithecus. About 2 million years ago, some of these archaic men and women left their homeland to journey through and settle vast areas of North Africa, Europe, Asia, and thus human evolved in different directions. Humans in Europe and Western Asia evolved into Homo neanderthals, the most eastern regions of Asia populated by Homo erectus. On the island of Java and Indonesia lived Homo saulensis. On another island, the small island of Flores, our archaic humans underwent a process of developing and dwarfing and popularly came to be known as Floresians. Some of the other human species were Homo rudolfensis, Denisovans, etc. For most of the human history, sapiens lived on a single pattern, but something different and special happened between 70,000 and 30,000 years ago when appearance of new ways of thinking and communication took place. There are theories associated with the origin of language, and some of them I am going to discuss them here. In 1861, historical linguist Max Muller published the list of speculative theories concerning the origins of spoken language, such as Bobo or cuckoo theory. This theory was put forward by Jean-Jacques Rousseau. Jean-Jacques Rousseau is very famous for his social contract theory and John Gottfried. And according to this theory, early words were imitations of the cries of beasts and birds, जैसे कि birds की chirping को दोहराना, शेर की दहाड़ या भालू के जो बोल है उसको दोहराना, ये theory वैसे ही थी. Poo-poo theory. The poo-poo theory emphasizes on emotional interjections and exclamations triggered by pain, pleasure and surprise, etc. For an example, आज भी जब हमें कुछ दर्द होता है तो अपने आप निकलता है आउच, या बहुत प्लेजर मोमेंट पे होता है तो वाओ, तो उस टाइम भी ऐसा कुछ रहा होगा. नेक्स्ट इन द रो इज यो ही हो थ्योरी. दिस थ्योरी claims that language emerged from collective rhythmic labor. जब हम ग्रुप में काम करते हैं तो कॉपरेशन बढ़ाने के लिए कुछ ना कुछ गुनगुनाते हैं, कुछ ना कुछ बोलते हैं. ये थ्योरी को आप उससे एसोसिएट कर सकते हैं. नेक्स्ट इन द रो इज टाटा थ्योरी. Tata theory was put forward by Sir Richard in 1930, and according to this theory, language emerged, and according to this theory, human made the earliest words by tongue movements that mimics manual gestures, rendering them audible. Next in the row is humanistic theory. This theory was put forward by Anthony Arnold in his book Port Royal Grammar. According to him, people are social and rational by nature, and this enabled them to create language as a means to communicate their ideas to others. In functionalist linguistic theory, the primacy of communication is emphasized over psychological needs. Next in the row is Romulus and Remus hypothesis. This was proposed by Andrei Vyshitsky, and according to him, the origin of language can be divided into two phases. Number one, slow recursion, and number two, fast recursion. स्लो रिकर्शन वॉज द फेज बिफोर 70,000 BC। इसमें क्या होता था, स्लो रिकर्शन को हम एक एग्जांपल से समझ सकते हैं। जैसे मैं अगर बाजार जाता हूँ और कुछ खरीदता हूँ, तो आई मे से दैट आई हैव बॉट अ मैंगो, नाउ समवन एल्स सेज दैट आई हैव बॉट अ येलो मैंगो, और फिर दूसरा तीसरा कोई आदमी आता है, वो बोलता है आई हैव बॉट अ येलो एंड स्वीट मैंगो। तो एक ही लाइन में कुछ वर्ड को ऐड करने के बाद जो सेंटेंस बनती है उसको रिकर्शन बोलते हैं। तो ये रिकर्शन जो होता है वो बहुत स्लो हो रहा था 70,000 BC से पहले, लेकिन 70,000 BC में एक जेनेटिक म्यूटेशन होता है एंड वी आर नॉट अवेयर ऑफ द रीजन ऑफ दैट जेनेटिक म्यूटेशन, और उस जेनेटिक म्यूटेशन के बाद हमारा जो रिकर्शन का प्रोसेस है वो बहुत फास्ट हो जाता है, और बिटवीन 70,000 to 30,000 BC we have developed a vast genera of languages. Now every animal has some kind of language, including monkeys and apes having vocal one. What made our language different? This is the question. And the most common answer put forward by Yuval Noah Harari is that our language is amazingly flexible. We connect a limited number of sounds and signs to produce infinite number of sentences, each having distinct meaning. The another theory, that is gossip theory, agrees that the uniqueness in our language developed as a means of sharing information, the information about something which doesn't exist at all. Only sapiens can talk about the entire kinds of entities that they have never seen, touched, or smelled. Sociological research has proven that the maximum natural size of a group bonded by a gossip is about 150 individuals. Then you may ask how Homo sapiens managed founding cities, tens of thousands of inhabitants living under an empire. And the secret was probably the knitting of fiction of gods in the universe, nations, human rights, laws, and justice. Yet, none of them exist outside the figments of our imagination. The kinds of things that people create through this network of stories are known in academic circles as imagined reality. This imagined reality is something that everyone believes in, and as long as this communal belief persists, the imagined reality exerts force in the world. The immense diversity of imagined realities that sapiens invented and the resulting diversity of behavior patterns are the main components of what we call cultures today. I'm sorry. Sapiens did not forage only for food and materials. They also foraged for knowledge as well. To maximize the efficiency of their daily search for food, they required information about the growth patterns of each plant and habits of each animal. They needed to know which foods were nourishing, which made you sick, and how to use the progress and how to use others as cures. They studied every stream, every walnut tree, every bear cave, every flint stone deposit in their vicinity. The average forager had wider, deeper, and more varied knowledge of our immediate surroundings than most of our modern descendants. Foragers mastered not only the surrounding world of animals, plants, and objects, but also the internal world of their own bodies and senses. They listened to the slightest movements in the grass to learn whether a snake might be lurking there. They carefully observed the foliage of trees in order to discover fruits, beehives, and birds' nests. They moved with a minimum effort and noise and knew how to sit, walk, and run in the most agile and efficient manner. So, from this paragraph, we can, or from this talk, we can say that we have peaceful genes as well. Following the cognitive revolution, sapiens acquired the technology, the organizational skills, and perhaps even the vision necessary to break out of Afro-Asia and settle the outer world. Their first achievement was the colonization of Australia some 45,000 years ago. Australia was then very rich resource of flora and fauna. It is today hard to believe that sapiens were in ocean. Large animals like Diprotodon got extincted within a few hundred years of arrival of sapiens. Homo sapiens were the first human species to reach the Western Hemisphere. around 16,000 years ago. Mammoths and mastodons, rodents the size of bears, herds of horses and camels, oversized lions, and dozens of large species were found in abundance in America around 16,000 BC, before Homo sapiens arrived there. But no longer within 2000 years of the sapiens' arrival, most of these unique species were gone. According to current estimates, North America lost 34 out of 47 genera of large animals, South America 50 out of 60, within 2000 years of Homo sapiens' arrival. At the time of cognitive revolution, the planet was home to about 200 genera of large terrestrial mammals weighing over 50 kgs. At the time of agricultural revolution, only about 100 remained. Homo sapiens drove to extinction about half of the planet's big beasts long before humans invented the wheel, writing, or iron tools. If we knew how many species we have already eradicated, we might be more motivated to protect those that still survive. This is especially relevant to the large animals of the ocean. If things continue at the present pace, it is likely that whales, sharks, tuna, and dolphins will follow the diprotodons, crabs, sloths, and mammoths to oblivion. Moreover, Homo sapiens drove all the other hominid species that lived on this planet to oblivion. So, we can also say that we carry violent traits in our genes as well. Sorry. Now, language created myth. But what is myth? We already know that language created myths through gossip theory. Now, what is a myth? Ernst Cassirer, in his book Language and Myth, analyzes the non-rational thought processes that go to make up culture. He demonstrates that beneath both language and myth, there lies an unconscious grammar of experience whose categories and canons are not those of logical thought. The term myth here refers to the imaginative expression in narrative form of what is experienced or apprehended as basic reality. George Fraser, one of the prominent researchers in mythology, argued that myths were intended to explain intelligible rituals. Rituals came first, and myth was then formulated as a subsequent explanation. The context of important myths concerning the origin of the world usually reflects the dominant cultural form of a tradition. The myth of hunter-gatherer societies tell of the origin of game animals and hunting customs. Agricultural civilizations tended to give way to agricultural practices, and so on and so forth. Thus, many myths present models of acts and organizations that are central to the society's way of life. Sacred images, masks, sacred texts are the counterparts of the myths. Myths then evolved to create empires, money, and religion. They further evolved to create laws of equality, rights, justice, liberty, etc. Homo sapiens evolved to think of people as divided into us and them. Us was the group immediately around you, wherever you are. In them was everybody else. The first millennium BC witnessed the rise. The first millennium BC witnessed the rise of three psychological constructs that enhanced the feeling of us, at least potentially: money, empire, and religion. For merchants, whole world was market, and all people were potential consumers. For conquerors, whole world was empire, and all people were potential subjects. For prophets, whole world was a single truth, and all humans were potential believers. Empires were constituted of a ruler, number of people to be ruled, and border that was defined. Empire's imperial vision tended to be universal and exclusive. For an example, Mauryan Empire spread the teaching of Buddha. Muslim caliphs gave divine mandate to spread the Prophet's revelation. Now, these were done in order to ensure harmonization of different cultures. Ruling elite Ruling elites treated their conquered subjects as second fiddle unless they accept the culture of their new ruler. Empires have played a decisive role in amalgamating many small cultures into big cultures. Ideas, people, goods, and technologies spread more easily within the borders of an empire than a politically fragmented region. As far as religion is concerned, Islam, Christianity, and Buddhism are universal and missionary too. Ancient religions were local, and their followers believed in local deities and spirits and had no interest in converting the whole humankind. But the universal religion was aimed at converting the whole humankind and focused on the harmonization of cultures. As recently as we had melting pot theory given by John Dewey, which is associated with the concept of pluralism, and he argues that different cultures come and combine with each other, and over a course of decades they become homogeneous. Coming to the third psychological construct, that was money. Money works by converting matter into mind. Trust is the raw material from which all types of money are minted. Now, what created this trust was a very complex and long-term network of political, social, and economic relations. Empires, religions, and money, these three were our social constructs and a part of an imagined order. Imagined order will be talked later in the talk, in this presentation. The evolution of empires and religions created the concept of laws of equality, rights, justice, and liberty. But according to science and biology, people were not created, they evolved, and they certainly evolved not to be equal. The idea of equality is inextricably intertwined with the idea of creation. The Americans got the idea of equality from Christianity, which argues every person has a divinely created soul and that all souls are equal before God. Evolution is based on difference, not on equality. Every person carries a somewhat different genetic code and is exposed from birth to different environmental influences. This led to the development of different qualities that carry with them different chances of survival. Just as people were never created, they evolved blindly and independently, accustomed to their surroundings and environment. Fishes live in water not because they have the right to live in water, but because they have a streamlined body and gills. There is no such concept of liberty in biology. From a biological point of view, it is meaningless to say that humans in democratic societies are free, and those humans in dictatorship are not free. Now you may ask that we know all the people are not biologically equal. But do you have any problems when we consider them equals because we need a greater cooperation and we enable people in order to enable people to reach to their full potential? No. I do not have any problem with this. But this is what is called an imagined order. We believe in a particular order not because it is objectively true, but because believing in it enables us to cooperate efficiently and forge a better society. In order to safeguard an imagined order, continuous and strenuous efforts are imperative. Else, civil war, military coups are the examples of lack of such required strenuous effort. So we are living in a world of an imagined order. We are living in a world of an imagined reality. And to quote Plato, he asserted that the world we are living in is an illusion. There is a different world which is known as the world of ideas, is something which is real. This was the view of Plato, that the world we are living in is completely an illusion world, is not the real world. Now we are compelled to believe in that this is not an imagined order we are living in. This has been created by the great gods or by the laws of nature. Few centuries back, the concept of liberalism, communism, and individualism are now reality. The concept of individualism has been followed to such an extent that nuclear family is becoming more nuclear nowadays. Our appetite, desires are shaped from birth by its dominant myths. We have been throughout our lives dominated by the concept of romanticism, consumerism, and romantic consumerism. Romanticism means explore different feelings, emotions, which emphasizes primacy of individual. And consumerism refers that in order to be happy, consume as many as products as possible. Are we not living in that imagined order? Today, this era is dominated by romantic consumerism. और अगर एक एग्जाम्पल से इसे समझे तो आज मेरे एज का लड़का और मेरे एज की कोई लड़की आपस में मिलने जाते हैं तो they wear the don costly clothes, they use a lot of makeup on their faces. Is it not an example of romantic consumerism? Tourist sector is completely a product of this romantic consumerism. And this romantic consumerism, romanticism, and all the theories and concepts of imagined realities created imagined communities. We live in two imagined communities simultaneously, and they are nation and consumer tribe. The nation is the imagined community of the state, and the consumer tribe is the imagined community of the market. Both are imagined communities because it is impossible for all customers in market or for all members of a nation really to know one another the way villagers knew one another. Consumerism and nationalism work extra hours to make us imagine that millions of strangers belong to the same community as ourselves, that we all have a common past, common interests, and a common future. This isn't a lie. This isn't a lie, it's imagination. But if I pose a simple question to you that what is the ultimate aim of human being, I'm sure you will agree it to happiness. But what is happiness? Is having a luxury villa or chauffeur in Mercedes happiness? Is going to pubs and parties give happiness? Having luxury food stuff and donning costly clothes give happiness, or they just give pleasure? Following consumerism, materialism, romanticism, Eurocentrism, and the concepts of fashion industry make us happy? Here I would like to quote some of the prominent political thinkers. According to Aristotle, the highest rational activity gives happiness. In private sphere, it comes from spiritual experience, and in public, using rational logical reasoning ability to frame state's affairs. For him, happiness is an activity. For Lord Buddha, happiness is achieved when a person can perceive the true nature of reality, unmodified by the mental constructs we superimpose on it. इसका सीधा मतलब ये हुआ कि हमारे अंदर जो है हमेशा हमारे ब्रेन जो है वो फीलिंग्स, हम सेंटीमेंट से घिरे होते हैं. इस समय अगर बहुत खुश हैं हम, तो ये जरूरी नहीं कि अगले मिनट भी हम उसी मैग्नीट्यूड में उसी फीलिंग्स को फील कर सके. एंड दिस क्रिएट सफरिंग. जब हम खुश नहीं होते हैं when we are sad, we try to chase happiness. And when we fail to do so, we become more sad, we become anxious, and sometimes we become depressed. यहाँ पे लॉर्ड बुद्धा कहते हैं कि हमें फीलिंग्स को जज नहीं करना चाहिए, रिएक्ट नहीं करना चाहिए. वी शुड एक्सेप्ट ऑल आवर फीलिंग्स द वे दे आर, और इससे हमारी सारी सफरिंग खत्म हो जाएगी, एंड देन वी विल बी हैप्पी. फॉर महात्मा गांधी, हैप्पीनेस इज when what you think, what you say, and what you do are in harmony. Or for he asked everybody to repeat 10 lines if you see someone distressed. And I would like to repeat those 10 points. And they are: I offer you peace. I offer you love. I offer you friendship. I see your beauty. I hear your need. I feel your feelings. My wisdom flows from the highest source. I salute that source in you. Let us work together for unity and peace. तो अभी तक हम लोगों ने समझा कि कैसे होमो सैपियंस जो है इवॉल्व हुए, कैसे लैंग्वेज एक बहुत बड़ा रोल प्ले करता है होमो सैपियंस को इवॉल्व करने में और हमें इस वर्ल्ड का मास्टर बनाने में. लैंग्वेज के थ्रू हमने मिथ्स को क्रिएट किया और मिथ्स ने फिर एम्पायर्स, रिलीजन और मनी को बर्थ दिया. फर्दर उनका इवोल्यूशन हुआ और कॉन्सेप्ट्स लाइक इक्वालिटी, जस्टिस, लॉज ये पिक्चर में आने लगे और फिर हम एक इमेजिन ऑर्डर में रहने लगे. वो इमेजिन ऑर्डर बढ़ते बढ़ते इमेजिन कम्युनिटीज बन गई, अलग अलग थ्योरीज आने लगी और वो थ्योरीज फिर हमारे आंखों के सामने दिखने लगी. जब इवोल्यूशन हो रहा था तो हमने देखा कि हमारे अंदर पीसफुल जीन्स भी थे, बिकॉज होमो सैपियंस वर इंटरनली पीसफुल. तभी वो एक स्लाइटेस्ट मूवमेंट को भी एक्सेस कर पाते थे, एंड दे वर वायलेंट एज वेल. और तभी उन लोगों ने बाकी के ह्यूमन स्पीशीज को एक्सटिंक्शन पर भेज दिया. तो हमारे अंदर दो तरह के जीन्स हैं, एक पीसफुल जीन और एक वायलेंट जीन. नाउ दिस इज कंप्लीटली अप टू अस which gene should dominate us, the violent one or the peaceful one. अगर वायलेंट जीन हमें डोमिनेट करती है तो हमारे जो ऑफ स्प्रिंग होंगे, ये जो आने वाला वर्ल्ड है वो वायलेंट होगा, वो एंशियस होगा और मोर डिप्रेस्ड होगा. और अगर पीसफुल जीन, हैप्पी जीन हमें डोमिनेट करती है तो आने वाले जो वर्ल्ड होगा, जो हमारे ऑफ स्प्रिंग्स होंगे वो हैप्पी होंगे, वो पीसफुल होंगे. इफ यू आस्क मी, फॉर मी व्हाट इज हैप्पीनेस? For me, happiness is associated with the handling of responsibilities given to us by our multiple identities. We know our life consists of multiple identities. हम किसी के लिए एक दोस्त हैं, अपने माँ बाप के लिए हम उनके बेटे हैं, अपने टीचर्स के लिए हम स्टूडेंट्स हैं. अलग अलग जगह पर अलग अलग रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज को ऑनेस्टली फुलफिल करना, फॉलो करना ही हमें खुशी देता है. फॉर हंग्री पीपल वे मे बी अ सोर्स ऑफ देयर एपेटाइट. फॉर पुअर चिल्ड्रन वी मे बी अ सोर्स ऑफ लाइट टू देयर फ्यूचर. फॉर widow mothers, for non-earning widow mothers, we may be helping hand. For old mothers, we may become their caretakers. For the institution, we may be a part of utility. And our responsibility in these areas is to contribute with the best of our capabilities and capacities. For our friends, we may be the examples of loyalty. तो मेरे हिसाब से हैप्पीनेस तो यही है कि जितने भी आइडेंटिटीज ने हमें जितने भी अलग अलग तरह की रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज दी है, वी शुड ट्राई टू हैंडल ऑल दोज रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज ऑनेस्टली विद द बेस्ट ऑफ आवर एबिलिटीज एंड कैपेसिटीज, एंड दैट विल लीड टू अ वे टुवर्ड्स हैप्पीनेस. That's all. Thank you, and thank you very much for listening, for hearing me with patience.
Thank you so much, Mr. Shahid. It was very informative talk. You have presented every point of a topic in a wonderful way. Homo sapiens, during the birth of language, such a vast topic, and you have represented in a very short period of time. The way you have explained the important points like the evolution of Homo sapiens and how the Homo sapiens have evolved in different regions of world. You have also emphasized on the points development of language and communication around 70,000 years ago and how it helped Homo sapiens to cooperate in large numbers. And you have also explained theories related to evolution of language. You have very beautifully explained the point the origin of language is related to religion and mythology, creation of nation and human rights, concept of justice and law. And at last, you have very well defined the meaning of happiness. You gave a marvelous presentation, and I'm sure your talk would have given a lot of information to our listeners. Now, moving ahead to some of the queries by our enthusiastic listeners. First question is from what was so special about New Sapiens language that it enabled us to conquer the world?
Language. Earlier, we had a band of small groups. Small groups consisted of 10 to 20 people. Now, with the evolution of language around 70,000 to 30,000 BC, people started communicating, people started gossiping, and that gossiping increased cooperation. Once the cooperation increased, coordination increased. We know what is the importance of cooperation and coordination when we are a team. So we fought together, we struggled together, we lived together, and societies grew. And that's how we were able to create empires.
Okay, now the another question is from Mr. Ajay Gupta. You talked about myths that were being propagated in an imaged reality we are living in. Don't you think you are creating new myths by busting so-called other myths?
Of course, myths creates myths. I've already explained in the talk that how myths created money, empires, and religion. And money, empires, and religion further evolved to create the laws of justice, equality, rights. They're all myths, and they produce an imagined order. So myths create myths, the way imagination creates imagination. But these myths, these imagination, they're not negative. They're very positive because they increase coordination and cooperation among us. They enable us to reach to our full potential. So myths always create myths, but we need to put a demarcation line. Which myths are good for us and which are bad?
Okay, now the next question is from Mr. Shubham Tiwari. How we deal with who we are?
Every political thinker, they have tried to explain who we are, and they have tried to best of their abilities how we should live. When we study Aristotle, he says that there is a unique quality in Homo sapiens, there is a unique quality in human beings, और वो ह्यूमन सोल को 4 स्ट्रक्चर में डिवाइड करते हैं. पहला एपेटाइट, दूसरा वेजिटेटिव ग्रोथ, ये नॉन रैशनल एक्टिविटी है. रैशनल एक्टिविटी में थिंकिंग अबाउट चेंजिंग वर्ल्ड एंड थिंकिंग अबाउट अनचेंजिंग वर्ल्ड. तो जो एपेटाइट है, जो वेजिटेटिव ग्रोथ है, वो एनिमल्स और प्लांट्स में भी होता है. थिंकिंग अबाउट अनचेंजिंग वर्ल्ड, दैट इज द मेटाफिजिकल वर्ल्ड, उसके बारे में जो सोचता है, दे आर प्योरली रैशनल और दे आर गॉड. थिंकिंग अबाउट चेंजिंग वर्ल्ड, जो हमारे डिजायर्स हैं, जो हमारे सर्कमस्टांसेस हैं, वो हमेशा चेंज होते रहते हैं. एंड दिस इज व्हाट मेक्स अस यूनिक, एंड दिस इज हाउ वी शुड इंटरप्रेट अस. तो जो चेंजिंग वर्ल्ड के बारे में सोचता है, जैसा डिजायर है, जो हमारे चेंजिंग सर्कमस्टांसेस हैं, इसमें हम हैप्पीनेस को कैसे फील कर सकते हैं? दिस इज समथिंग वी शुड क्रिएट अ ब्रिज बिटवीन हु वी आर एंड व्हाट वी एम फॉर. We are human beings and we aim for happiness. But what is happiness? So that is how we should interpret. And changing circumstances और desires के बारे में हम सबसे अच्छे से तभी सोच सकते हैं when we are rational. So we should always try to be rational. And this will make a way towards happiness. Now I've already explained what happiness is.
Yeah, Subi, it's over for question answer. Move ahead.
Okay, sir, sure. Thank you, Mr. Shahid. You have tackled all the questions very nicely. Now I hand over the program to Miss Manvi.
Thank you, Ms. Shubhi. Journal of Continuity and Change, which is a monthly magazine of the history department of our college, which deals with social, political, and economic issues. To tell you more about it, I hand over the program to Mr. Anant.
Anand, you are muted.
Am I audible, sir?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. Thank you, Ms. Manvi. Hello, everyone. I, Anand Joshi, on behalf of JCC, which is Journal of Continuity and Change, invites you all for the launch of our third edition, which is on 30th of September 2021. But before that, let me tell you what JCC is. JCC is Journal of Continuity and Change, which is by graduates, which is a monthly magazine and initiative by Saksh, the Society of History Department of Shyamlal College Evening, which deals with social, political, and economic issues besides keeping an eye on the contemporary interpretation. We have launched our first edition of JCC on July 2021 with our theme, The Population Bomb. And for August edition, the theme was Fear and Courage. Now it's time to reveal the launch date for our third edition. This edition is on the theme of the next frontier, which means the next explode, unknown territory. This edition of JCC, that is Journal of Continuity and Change, third edition, we, the editors, have chosen certain events of the month of September and clustered them together under the pennon of United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. The subtopics are Goal 4, Quality Education; Goal 16, Peace, Justice, and Strong Institutions; Goal 3, Good Health and Well-being. You will find some link over in the chat box where you can find our other two editions as well. So be ready for the upcoming release of JCC, and we, the editors, invite you all for the launch of our JCC's third edition on 38th of September 2020. Till then, read, write, and recite. Stay tuned. Now I would like to hand over the stage to Ms. Archana.
Thank you, Mr. Anand. Good evening to everyone present here. As you know, we are going to launch our third edition on 30 September 2021. And we have also set up a platform for launching a fourth edition, that is Incredible India, on the Journal of Continuity and Change by graduates. So using this platform, GSTS, I would like to invite all your articles for our fourth edition, Incredible India. Giving a short description of our theme for the fourth magazine, we can say that Incredible India. What do you think when you hear this word, Incredible India? Waking up in India is like waking up to life itself. Our India is unique and diverse and beautiful. The month of October especially show us that the diversity of India in various forms and festivals. So we, the editors of JCC, are searching for articles that describe our Indian culture and heritage. The subtopics are Indian architecture, oral traditions and expressions, performing arts, sports and martial arts, knowledge and practices concerning nature and universe, and so much more. You will find a lot more description of our theme on our launching of our third edition. So stay tuned and please come on our launch. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Miss Archana. Now, I would like to call Miss Shruti, who is the speaker for next Sunday, to present a brief about her topic.
Good evening, everyone. Am I audible to everyone?
Yes, Shruti.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I am Shruti, ex-student of Janki Devi Memorial College, University of Delhi, and also an NCC cadet from Janki Devi Memorial College. First of all, I would like to thank GSTS for inviting me. My topic for the session is Depression, a Silent Threat in Society. The first and the foremost thing that I am going to discuss is what is depression. आखिर किस स्टेट ऑफ माइंड में हम पहुंच जाते हैं व्हेन वी कॉल वी आर इन डिप्रेशन. वी कांट हैंडल टू मच ऑफ लोड्स, टू मच ऑफ वर्क्स. हम ये भी जानेंगे कि क्या डिप्रेशन एक नया वर्ड है या ये बहुत पहले ही इमर्जेंस हो चुका है. हम ये भी जानेंगे कि अगर इसकी एग्जिस्टेंस पहले से है तो अब हम इसे डिप्रेशन क्यों कहते हैं, और अगर अब हम इसे डिप्रेशन कहते हैं तो पहले हम इससे क्या कहते थे. Like in what way it was existed in society. We'll also get to know कि ऐसी क्या स्थितियां पैदा हुई जब हमें डिप्रेशन की थ्योरी को प्रेजेंट करना पड़ा. Theorists get to know about the theory of depression, or they gave the theory of depression. So we'll get to know about the history, the meaning of depression, also what WHO says about depression. The second thing that I'm going to discuss is impact of corona on mental health. परेशानियां तो काफ़ी थी, बेरोजगारी थी, टेंशन्स थे, कॉलेज लाइफ की टेंशन थी, पढ़ाई की टेंशन थी, महंगाई काफ़ी ज़्यादा बढ़ रही थी. तो परेशानियां तो कहने को बहुत सारी थी, पर कोरोना ने आके इसमें एक चार चांद लगा दी. तो हम ये भी जानेंगे कि कोरोना का क्या इम्पैक्ट रहा है हमारी मेंटल स्टेबिलिटी को और ख़राब करने में. थर्ड थिंग विल गेट टू नो अबाउट इम्पैक्ट ऑफ डिप्रेशन ऑन अस. वैसे ही हमारी मेंटल स्टेबिलिटी हिली हुई है तो डिप्रेशन ने उसे और कैसे हिलाया है ये भी हम जानेंगे. हमारी बॉडी को, हमारे बिहेवियर को, हमारे हैबिट्स को, हमारे रिलेशनशिप्स को उसने कितनी हद तक हार्म पहुंचाया है विल गेट टू नो. The fourth thing that we will get to know about is government initiative against mental health and depression. अब हम गवर्नमेंट की यहाँ बात क्यों कर रहे हैं? प्रॉब्लम्स तो हमारी हैं, चिंताएं तो हमारी हैं, हमारे चिंतन से उत्पन्न हुई हैं, फिर हम गवर्नमेंट को यहाँ क्यों ला रहे हैं? तो हम ये भी जानेंगे कि गवर्नमेंट क्या स्टेप्स ले रही है और हम गवर्नमेंट को यहाँ पे क्यों इनिशिएटिव लेने के लिए फोर्स नहीं कर रहे, इनिशिएटिव लेने को कह रहे हैं. The last but not the least, we'll get to know about the ways to overcome from mental health and depression. वो कहते हैं ना कि कहावतें ऐसी ही नहीं बनती, कहावतें बीत गई हैं जब ही वो बनी हैं. तो हम यहाँ पे कुछ पॉजिटिव थॉट्स शेयर करेंगे. I will put some of my positive opinions with you. I will also share some of positive stories with you and also some positive thoughts of great leaders. And I wish and I hope कि after the session 50% से भी ज़्यादा ऑडियंसेस यहाँ से कुछ पॉजिटिव वाइब्स लेके जाएंगे, कुछ पॉजिटिव थॉट्स लेके जाएंगे, कुछ पॉजिटिविटी स्प्रेड करेंगे in a way of thoughts, not in a corona way. So stay tuned and please join the session on 26th of September 2021. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Shruti. We will be eagerly waiting for your talk on such a critical issue. Now, I would like to request our respected guest for his final remarks about the talk.
Thank you. I have jotted down some points. First of all, I would like to congratulate the speaker, Shahid Ahmed. The topic he has chosen is really very vast, and the way he dealt the topic has made it more vast because he has dealt with a number of issues. So he has presented it well, but I think he has also gone beyond the scope of the topic. I have a few suggestions. So, first of all, he has tried to uh, deal with the evolution of mankind in physical as well as cultural terms. Physical is from evolution of man from Homo erectus to present day man, Homo sapiens. Homo sapiens sapiens. We belong to the order primate, and our species is sapiens. So he has tried to deal with the physical evolution, and for the social and cultural evolution, he has dealt with language. So my suggestions are that the speaker should uh, uh, stick to the topic only. So it is important to review the literature according to the topic. And before presenting, at the beginning of the talk, seminar, the speaker should give an outline of the presentation so that he can be organized in his presentation. And for this, organizer can also think of coming up with some format, basic format of presentation, 10 to 15 slides. In first slide, you can introduce about the topic, outline of the topic, and then objective, rationale, and then you can come to the literature review part or your interpretation of the existing literature. So the organizer can think of it. So in this way, the presenter will have a uniform format to present the topic, and they have some they have some guidelines as well. Anyway, the topic is really interesting, and the speaker has made a tremendous effort, and he has presented it very well. So he should also deal with language and communication in more detail. Why the communication is important to the human beings, how it has evolved, and in what way it is fruitful or it is helpful to the human being. So from my side, that's all. And I'm again very happy to be with you, and very appreciative of the effort of Dr. Manish Kamwar and his team. He is a very dynamic person. We know him from the hostel days, and I appreciate your efforts, sir. And I am very much thankful to the entire team of GSTS and this Journal of Continuity and Change. This regarding the journal, if you are very serious, you can make it quarterly and try to take ISSN number and register for some journal, and in for quarterly journal or biannual journal, it will be easier for the team to sustain the journal. You will get some good articles from your college as well as from the campus and from outside your university, and people and of course the managing team, editorial team will have some time, some space to review the articles and give the comments to the author, and then otherwise the name of the journal is marvelous, excellent, very beautiful name, very good name. And I'm again thankful to you all, and I wish all the young researchers best of luck for their future endeavors. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. It's a pleasure to have you here today. Now, let's end this program with vote of thanks by Mandira.
Yuval Noah Harari says that it is thanks to language that Homo sapiens can create fiction, which enable it to cooperate collectively and establish civilization, which other animals don't have. In short, he insists that language has made Homo sapiens what it is now. Good evening, everyone. As you may know, the Department of History under the convenership of Dr. D.N. Singh sir and under the guidance of Dr. Pramod Kumar sir, Dr. Manish Karamwar sir, Dr. Seema Meena ma'am, Mr. Ajay Kumar sir has achieved new heights during the session 2016-17. And this is for the first time department formed its society, Sakshi. Myself, Mandira Paul, student of BA program second year, I deem it's a great opportunity and privilege to purpose the vote of thanks. First and foremost, I would like to thank our guest, Dr. Rajiv Kamal Kumar sir. Thank you so much, sir, for your kind address and your valuable time to us. I would like to thank all the respected teachers who joined us today. Shantoshi ma'am, Ila Bhushan ma'am, Krishna ma'am, Sandhya ma'am, Dharma Rawat ma'am, Manoj sir, Sanjeev sir, Ritu ma'am, Jaya ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am. Now it's turn to thank our star of the day speaker, Mr. Shahid Ahmed. Thank you so much for making our evening such an informative one. I would like to thank Dr. D.N. Singh sir for his presence in this program and want to thank all the team members who ran around all the things. I would like to thank all the students who joined us today. Thank you so much for supporting us. Have a great day ahead.